Hello, my name is Brittany and I'm an admissions representative with Kansas State University Online. I want to start by thanking everyone for joining us tonight to learn more about our online Professional Master of Business Administration. I'm joined by the program director, Susie Otten, who is going to spend roughly the next 30 minutes or so giving us a presentation about this program, and then we'll spend the last 10 to 15 minutes answering questions. Throughout the duration of this presentation, we will be monitoring the chat feature and answering questions as they are being asked. Some of your questions may be saved until the end for Susie to answer. If you could now please take a few seconds to locate the chat feature and answer the question you'll see on the following slide, we would love to learn a little bit more about you. I'll give you a moment to do so now. As those chats are coming in, I also wanted to let you know that we will be sharing a recording of this presentation following the webinar. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Susie.
Thanks, Brittany. Welcome. Thank you for spending part of your evening learning about the online MBA program K-State offers. We call it the Professional MBA program because we require applicants to have at least 3 years of full-time post-baccalaureate work experience to be eligible to enter the program, in addition to the academic requirements that we have. A little bit about me. I am a double grad from K-State. And I have worked at K-State. They're actually my first full-time employer. I just celebrated my 33rd anniversary, and don't try to do the math because I'll just tell you I was 3 when I started working here. So that makes it a lot easier. Just kidding. But K-State has been a great employer for me. This is actually my 4th job at K-State, and it's my absolute favorite. I'm not just saying that. I've really enjoyed working with professionals, helping you complete your MBA so that you can then move on to higher levels within your careers. But probably a fun fact is the first time I traveled abroad as an adult was with the PMBA program. So I got my first passport after when I was in this job for about 3 years. So that's a highlight that I'll get to in a little bit. So I'm going to approach this presentation as an expression of hope that you're at least looking at multiple programs. Of course, I'd love to have you in K-State's program, but I think it's important that you are sure about the investment of time and resources into a master's degree. And so the things I want to highlight are things you should be looking at so that you're comparing apples to apples. The first is accreditation status. Second is how much the program will cost. Third, what is the format? Fourth, how flexible is the program that you're entering? And then fifth, what kind of support services are available to you as a graduate student? And then finally, I'll highlight how K-State's program fulfills those, I think, are very important components for an MBA program. So first of all, K-State, the university itself is accredited by the Higher Learning Commission. We're part of the North Central region, but individual programs also have their specialized accreditations. And so colleges and business programs are accredited by AACSB, which is the Association to Advance Colleges and Schools of Business. And this is the highest accreditation any program can have. It's internationally recognized, and a lot more employers are paying attention to accreditation, especially when they hear online. Unfortunately, we've had the Corinthian universities and some others, University of Phoenix, that have kind of tarnished the image of online, but your employer hopefully will, and your future employers will hopefully value that you have sought out an AACSB accredited program. And I would just highly recommend that if you're looking at other programs, accreditation's got to be first on your list. K-State actually holds accreditation in both business and accounting programs. So that puts us in a very elite group. About 5% of programs worldwide have AACSB accreditation, and 5% of that 5% have dual accreditation. So you know that K-State is a high quality program. So the cost, you've probably, if you've looked at other programs, you'll notice that like UT Austin is about $110,000 to get your MBA. Harvard, of course, is going to be 150,000, if not more. K-State's program, if you need all 12 classes, will cost you $30,000. So it's still a very large sum of money that you're going to be investing. But we feel like since we hold the same accreditation as UT Austin and Harvard and Carnegie Mellon, but we offer it at a very valuable, high quality program at a low cost. So you're going to get a better return on your investment. Each course costs $2,500. So you're not going to be paying any additional fees. You're just going to pay flat tuition of $2,500, and then we provide your textbooks. So that's another example of what you need to be looking at when you're looking at their programs. So you may find a program that costs the same, but then you'll also have to purchase textbook, possibly case studies or journal articles, which can also drive up the cost of your program. And can you use tuition benefits from your employer? We can work with you to make it, try to minimize the out-of-pocket expenses for you. Some programs are very generous. It'll cost you about $12,500 per year if you take 2 classes each regular semester and 1 in the summer. And you also need to find out, are there scholarships available? But also in the end, you're looking at your master's program as being an investment in your future. Third, you want to look at the format. So are you going to be required to be live, or is it a totally asynchronous program? Are there residency requirements? Do you need to come to campus for anything for large periods of time? Can you make adequate academic progress? Are the classes 16 weeks long, so a full semester, or are they 8 weeks long so that you can get 2 classes done, but take 1 at a time? Will you have peer-to-peer interaction opportunities? Or are you just out there at the other end of the computer line on your own? Those are all important questions to ask. And to see what fulfills your needs. Do you want it to be a correspondence course, or do you want to be able to have peer-to-peer interaction? So the fourth item is to look at how flexible a program is. Do you have to only enter in August and January, for example? Will you be kicked out of the program if there's a semester that you can't take a class because maybe you're going to be on a very large project that won't give you much time? Is there a timeline for completing the program that will allow you to maximize that tuition benefit from your employer that I mentioned earlier? Do you have to be logging in every Tuesday at 7 for your class? And do you have elective and concentration options? So these are all things that K-State offers. We have 5 admission points in the program. We do, of course, allow program pauses. We've had students who have been assigned to a project out of the country and just weren't sure how their internet was going to be. We've had soldiers who have deployed. If they're kind of on the front lines, internet is terrible, so they can't make any progress towards their degree. So we allow for those program pauses and help them restructure their program so that they can pick those classes up later. For K-State's program, you're not going to be live for any of your classes. Those lectures are pre-recorded so that you can watch them on your own time, but you'll have to do so in a way that allows you to complete assignments that are due once a week. But we do have you come to be live 2 times in your career. Once is to attend orientation on campus, which is a 2-day orientation. And then most students are required to participate in an international business trip, which I'll describe a little bit more later, but it's a 10-day to up to 2-week trip that you will participate in. Students who have lived and worked abroad are waived out of that requirement. And then we do have a multitude of elective options. Our PMBA students are only required to take one elective in their program, but if you want to develop a concentration, you'll have to take 2 electives. So it would add, you would end up taking 39 hours in order to have a concentration, because it takes 9 hours to develop a concentration. Support services. Are advisors available when you need advisement? Are there opportunities for you to do professional development and personal development? Do you have opportunities for networking or mentorship? And what kind of career services are available? So since most students in our program are already employed, many don't think about, well, what if I need career services? What if I need career advice? So that's actually something that I like to mention up front, so that you're thinking, when I'm done with this degree, maybe I don't want to stay where I am and I want to see what's available to me. So if you join this program, you'll have me as your advisor the entire time you're in the program. And I don't sleep that much, so I'm often logged on and answering email. Our faculty, as a matter of fact, many will, very first thing early in the morning, will check their email because our distant students are in many different time zones. And so they'd like to start the day by addressing any questions that maybe came up during the night when you may have been working on homework. And then they usually end the day by also checking their email and checking in with their distant students, as well as throughout the day. Our rule is that faculty have to respond within 24 hours of receiving a message, exclusive of the weekends, but most of them do check on the weekends anyway. We also offer professional development as part of our orientation program. So students are required to come to orientation one time. It allows you to meet the faculty that you'll be getting taught by while you're in the program. You get a chance to meet me if we haven't met at a recruiting event previously. And you also get to meet the administrators and support staff that will help you as you're working your way through the program. And then the second day of orientation, we always have a half-day professional development workshop. And so that changes every year. So even though you only have to come once to orientation, you're invited every year just in case you want to take advantage of that professional development opportunity. We also have a very active Graduate Studies Advisory Council, where it's been much easier for our distant students to interact with them because our meetings have been via Zoom, like the rest of the world during COVID. But we have thought ahead and plan to continue to incorporate our PMBA students into those Graduate Studies Advisory Council meetings, because you get to hear from CFOs, CEOs who are on our advisory council, and hearing about the kinds of needs they have from employees, and how we can adapt our curriculum to provide new employees that are valuable to them with the knowledge that they need. They also really enjoy hearing about the kinds of projects that the students are working on, so we can plan to continue that networking. We do have an executive mentor program. You may have a mentor that's already assigned to you where you work, but sometimes it's nice to have a mentor who may not be affiliated with your company, so that you can maybe have some very frank and confidential discussions with them about challenges that you may be facing, or getting career advice from them on how to position yourself for greater opportunities down the road. So you're highly encouraged to take advantage of the Executive Mentor Program. And then finally, we have our own career services office within the College of Business, and we have career coaches that are very well connected to companies that hire our graduates. So they are available to help with resume rewrites and to get you connected with job opportunities that might be of interest to you. So the structure of K-State's PMBA program is that it's a 36-hour program, 12 course maximum, and it's all the classes are completed online. You are not required to have an undergraduate business degree, but we do ask that students have 2 economics courses, 2 statistics courses, or one at the graduate level, and at least general calculus and linear algebra. Sometimes it's called business math. But at K-State, it's Math 205, General Calculus, and Linear Algebra. We waived the GMAT exam for applicants who have 3 years of post-baccalaureate full-time work experience. So that's usually a big relief to people that they don't have to go out and take the GMAT exam. And then the application fee is waived for those with a minimum 3.5 GPA, but because you're spending time with us this evening, you've already earned an application fee waiver. So that will save you $65. And the bonus is you get to see the world. And this often ends up being people's favorite part of the program, the international experience. So I'm going to be talking about this in a non-COVID world since we haven't been able to travel since January 2020. But the trips are usually 10 to 14 days. Most of them tend to be more towards the 10-day side. And all the trips happen during times when there are no classes in place. So when we have our spring trips in January, we're usually right after the holidays, but before the spring semester begins, we'll schedule a trip. In fact, this January, we're hoping that we get to go to Costa Rica. We also have started offering trips during the university's spring break. And then we have what are called summer trips, but they usually happen within the last 2 weeks of May after commencement has taken place, since our faculty are required to be there. They're structured as international business trips, and we usually visit at least 4, but usually at 5 businesses that deal with the major export of the country that we're visiting, where students get to interact with C-suite executives, so the CEO, CFO, get to hear about what drives their business decision making, and how they implement different strategies as they try to keep their company solvent and growing. In addition, we participate in cultural immersion activities. Usually we go to culturally significant sites. Some of the places we've gone have been Italy, Taiwan, Costa Rica. Trying to think where else we've been. And we keep trying to go on a Brexit-themed trip to the UK and Belgium, but COVID has really messed with the scheduling of that trip. And so in Taiwan, they're a high-tech based economy. So we visited Tesla, Intel, Solomon Technologies. And we also interacted with 2 universities that are sister institutions in Taiwan. At one of the universities, we actually got to spend time with their MBA students, and they took our MBA students out to the night markets in Taichung City, which was a lot of fun. And in fact, most of them had friends come along because they wanted to practice their English speaking skills with Americans and really get a good experience. So that was a lot of fun. And we also have a lot of alumni in Taipei. So we did an alumni event there as well. In Italy, we visited an olive oil producer, a limoncello producer, PricewaterhouseCoopers Innovation Lab, and as well as Telecom Italia. And we actually got to spend about 3 hours with the CEO of Telecom Italia, which was at one time had the monopoly basically on cell phone service for Italy. But as more cell phone companies have come in, then they had to diversify, and they went to smart home technology was where they decided to invest. So that was really interesting. And we also went to a textile mill where they were weaving the fabrics for the next year's fashion line. So hearing about how they reward employees and how the the efforts they make to retain employees, that textile mill had a 0.5% turnover every year, which was just amazing to us. So just getting to hear that really solidified the knowledge that our students were gaining from the MBA program. In addition, we went to the Colosseum. We went to Nero's Palace. In Taiwan, we went to a Buddhist monastery. And it just really, and then the food. I'm a foodie, so it just was a lot of fun to try all these different foods. We didn't get extravagant. Nobody ate eyeballs or anything like that when we were in Asia, but just being able to experience the people as well was very educational and heartwarming, actually, because we were treated very well wherever we went. And so, as you can tell, I could probably go on the rest of the night about this trip, but let's move on. We do allow students to bring their spouse or partner along. We've had a couple students bring their mom, so that's okay too. But as long as there's space available, Taiwan tends to fill up because it's a very reasonably priced trip. It's about $2,500 with airfare, whereas the Europe trips tend to be closer to $4,500, including airfare. So there's a distinct price difference. But we do have access to scholarships that you can apply for to help reduce the cost of that trip. So hopefully in my ramblings, you've learned that K-State is a program that's set apart from the rest. You can maintain full-time employment while you earn your degree, because our classes are set up in 8-week sessions, which allows you to take 2 classes each semester, but focus on one at a time. So you're able to finish the program in about 2 to 2.5 years. But with those program pauses that might be necessary for professional reasons or care of a family member, you can take up to 6 years to complete the program. And we'll just keep working with you to modify your program of study so that you can stay on track. You'll pay about 1/3 the price that you will for other programs that have the same accreditation. And you'll learn from faculty that are not adjuncts from another university. They're all K-State faculty that are teaching our campus MBA students. So they're often using the lectures they've recorded for the PMBA program in their campus classes so that they can spend class time with those students working on case studies. Because the difference between the campus student and the online student is pretty distinct. Since our online students are coming to us with business experience, their discussions tend to be richer and full of more examples, whereas our campus students are usually traditionally aged. Many have come right out of their bachelor's program into their MBA, and so it's still all theoretical to them. They're very smart. There's not a difference in intelligence. It's just that experience that our online students have just really makes the program make more sense to them and more enriching for them. And then finally, you'll get to develop some international competencies so that you can interact with a variety of businesses. Since we're becoming more global, it really helps our students to get a feel for other cultures and appreciation. And that's a goal of the university, and it's a goal of the College of Business. So for next steps, if you're ready to apply, you can go to online.kstate.edu and click on how to apply, or you can send emails if you have questions that are remaining after tonight's discussion. You can participate again in another webinar or watch the recording that Brittany can send you. But do know that we're not going to pressure you into making a decision. We feel like that's a very personal decision and that you'll know when the time is right. If you would like to start in August, which is right around the corner, if we can get your application within the next week or so, we'll have no problem getting you admitted so that you can start classes on August 23rd. but you can also apply for admission in October, January, March, or next June. So don't feel like you have to rush into a decision, and let us know how we can help you if you have questions. So with that being said, Brittany, did I miss covering anything?
I don't believe you did, but we do have a few questions from the
Okay.
chat. One of the questions regarding the weekly assignments. Can you complete assignments ahead of time before they're due and kind of work ahead, or do they have to be turned in each week?
Some classes you can work ahead. I know like for Management 810, which would be one of the first classes most students take, it's Operations and Supply Chain Management. Dr. Shu actually gives a few extra credit points if you don't wait till the Sunday to turn in your assignment, because he likes to get started grading so he's not hit with 30 papers all at once. So yes and no. The other aspect of our program is you'll usually have a discussion board where the faculty member will pose a question or pose a problem or something that you need to react to. So every student is required to post an original response. And then sometime in that week, you'll have to respond to 2 of your classmates' posts. And so the idea is that there will be some back and forth and some discussion generated. So those cannot be worked ahead. And then, of course, exams can't be worked ahead. But usually the lectures are posted for the full 8 weeks. I almost said semester, but for the full term of the course so that you could work ahead. But we anticipate it takes about you should plan on 10 to 12 hours per week being needed to work on your class. And that's for content that you feel very comfortable with. For me, I don't really care for quantitative things. I'm a math phobic. I can do it. It just takes me a long time. So finance and accounting would probably take me 20 hours, and that's being very generous. But your comfort level will also dictate how much time. But most classes, your assignment will be due by midnight on Sunday every week. Does that answer the question?
I believe so, but Shaylee, feel free. Yeah, Shaylee says yes, and thank you.
Awesome.
Another question regarding the international trips. How do you make the decision where the trips are going to be each year?
So we have faculty that have expertise in those countries. So for example, Dr. Shu, who teaches Management 810, he's also my boss. He's our associate dean. He's from Taiwan. And so he is very well connected, and that's why he chooses to take students to Taiwan. And there's also a diversity of businesses that you get exposed to. There's tourism, there's the high-tech industry, there are major banks there that we have visited. And of course, he loves to show off the rich culture of his homeland. So that's really the basis for Taiwan. Dr. Chad Jackson leads a trip to Costa Rica, and it's because he's very interested in their social sustainability and the reinvesting that Costa Rican businesses do in their communities. So that's a special aspect of that country that he loves, and he knows a lot of self-made business people that started their own businesses. Since Dr. Jackson's the director of our entrepreneurship center, he is very intrigued by people who can start their own businesses. And so he likes to take our students down to see that. But then they also have large industry. Coffee and pineapple are very large industries down there. So they often will follow the coffee bean from farm to factory, and then do some coffee tastings, kind of like wine tasting, but with coffee. So there are different aspects of countries that faculty have studied, and so they want to share that expertise with their students. I hope that makes sense. And then Swinder Janda, if you're a K-State, or Dr. Janda has been a marketing professor here for a long time, and he just loves Italy. So he's very well connected in Italy, and is able to, I mean, we went to Vatican City, we went to the companies that I mentioned earlier, and it's just a very, again, the diversity of the businesses that we got to experience really appealed to a lot of different majors, people who came from different undergrad backgrounds. It just, and our engineers loved being in the factories, so they liked seeing that kind of thing. And we also got, in Italy, we went to a pharmaceutical supply chain manager. So they didn't make the drugs, but they distributed the drugs and transported them to where they needed to go. And so that was really interesting for our supply chain management students. So I hope that helps. And we haven't been able to travel, of course, because of COVID. And so students ended up doing, we've done 2 virtual trips. One was the Costa Rica trip. They were able to adapt it. So the students didn't have any travel expenses, but they were able to get a lot of the content and interact via Zoom live. That was the trips you'll have to do live in person, of course, but even the virtual trips, they did have some live components because the students were then able to ask questions of these business contacts that Dr. Jackson had in Costa Rica. And then we were supposed to go to South Korea next month, and that's not going to happen because COVID's on the rise there again. So Dr. Jaebom Suh is going to do that trip virtually as well. And so that class has, I think, 5 nights, like at 7 p.m., that they're going to be meeting a new executive each of those nights and having a chance to interact. So we are not delaying people's graduation because we haven't been able to travel. So hopefully that brings you some comfort as well.
Thank you, Susie. For now, that looks like most of the questions have been answered. I can give everyone a few moments to drop anything else in the chat since we still have some time.
And I do want to offer that if you would like me to do a transcript analysis for you before you apply, I'm really happy to take a look at unofficial transcripts and your current resume and give you an idea of whether you could be admitted and what your program of study would look like. Especially if you're a business major, you can have some classes waived. So someone who majored in operations and or who majored in supply chain management would not have to take management 810, for example. An accounting grad would not have to take accounting 810. So there are ways that you can reduce your course load. If you have lived and worked abroad already, share a summary of your experiences with me, and then we can usually get that waived. So up to 2 classes can be waived. We've had students who have been double majors in accounting and finance, so they don't take accounting 810 and finance 815, and they're left with 30 hours to complete for their MBA. So there are ways to reduce that, and I'm happy to give you an idea of what your program of study would look like.
Awesome. Well, Susie's contact information is on the screen. So like she said, feel free to send her an email and she can do that transcript evaluation for you. Also, when you are ready to apply, you can reach out to myself or my colleague Diane at online@ksu.edu, and we can supply you with an application fee waiver for the fall since you did attend this webinar. And I guess I'd like to just thank you, Susie, for that great presentation, as well as thank everyone for being here tonight. Like we said, if you're ready to apply, you can go to our website and get detailed instructions on how to do so. As a reminder, everybody registered for this webinar will be receiving a recording via email as soon as it's available. And finally, if you had any additional questions that we weren't able to cover tonight, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Susie.
Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Have a great night, everyone.